Disneyland Resort crowds are swelling, World of Color restoration work gets serious, and are character meet and greets returning to the way they used to be? All that and so much more. It's a jam-packed Disneyland drop-in. What's happening, my friends? Wade for the Kingdom Report, back with you once again, covering all the latest updates, trending topics, and news coming out of the Disneyland Resort theme parks. Today, on the Monorail platform, once again, as the monorails have returned after more than a year away. It is so great to see the monorails back in action on the highway in the sky, taking guests to and from Tomorrowland and the One Stop in the downtown Disney district. And as great as it is to see the monorails back, unfortunately, they are having some operational problems. Monorail Blue noticeably sitting on the track, coming to a screeching halt and getting stuck, needing a tow back in and then having to be switched out for Monorail Red. Monorail Red, I waited 25 minutes for, and I have to tell you, as thrilled as I am that the monorails are even back in any capacity, the interior of Monorail Red especially was, and I don't use this term lightly, disgusting. Stains, markings, floor paneling, and wall paneling all coming off at the seams. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at the monorails before they got rolled out for guest use, but that is what you will be exposed to. In Tomorrowland, we also see work still happening on the submarine voyage for Finding Nemo. Lots of intricate work happening on the rocks, as well as the subs themselves for a winter return. Orange County Register is reporting that will likely be after the first of the year. In Star Wars Launch Bay, we wanted to point out that this double-decker location that takes up a big portion of Tomorrowland remains dark, still closed after Disneyland reopened some months ago, and being utilized mainly for distanced character meet and greets, as well as the occasional Disneyland band performance. Directly across from that, Tomorrow Landing is a tiny store that has always faced that facility, and it has been closed since Disneyland reopened the theme parks. However, we imagine it's just because it's so small. Moving on into the Fantasy Fair area in Fantasyland, some good news that might be on the way here is that the equivalent of the Royal Hall, which is where you used to be able to meet all the Disney princesses in a themed area, is reopening out at Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World in just a couple of weeks. In fact, in November is when they said that will happen. Perhaps we will be seeing the same thing replicated at Disneyland very soon, as the princesses will move out of this space of the Royal Theater, and the Royal Theater will make way once again for the vaudevillian-style stage shows and the storytelling that goes along with the various princess tales. Further back into Fantasyland we go, where we notice that facade work is happening on the front of the Fantasyland Theater marquee. We've watched as the barricades have been shuffling around recently in this area, and now work is being done. The Orange County Register noted this week that it's unlikely that Making the Magical Map will return to this theater, and it will instead be something entirely new. What would you like to see in the Fantasyland Theater? It's a Small World Holiday continues its facade work as Christmas lights are being hung with care. The attraction goes down for refurbishment starting October 23rd, reopening on November the 12th. Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique remains an expanded retail location as the makeovers, where they transform your little pumpkins into princesses, continue to remain offline. There is now rumors that the makeovers may return after the first of the year. So much goes along with the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, including auxiliary locations, much like Fairy Tale Treasures, and the castle location of Enchanted Chamber, where many guests check in for the transformation. And directly across from Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, the Castle Holiday Shop is filled with charm and lots of Christmas cheer. However, this was the first time I've stopped off in a store and overheard a cast member acknowledge to guests that supply chain issues are causing problems with certain items that guests are looking for. They acknowledge that items may still be out on shipment boats and probably will not make it this season. And from one holiday store to another, we move to Main Street USA, where the Main Street Photo Supply Company recently vacated all of PhotoPass to a central location out in the Esplanade between the parks to become what Disney is calling the Plaza Point Holiday Shop. That's right, On one side of the building, you have the new marquee. On the other side, it's still photo supply. It's a work in progress, folks. This will now be a new location, celebrating all holiday merchandise year-round. Up at City Hall, the complimentary celebration buttons that many people go to City Hall to ask for have just been now left out in front of City Hall itself. Anybody can access them, and during our visit, we saw that most guests were being very respectful and only taking the buttons that most represented them. Yes, there are pins that you can use to write your celebration specifically and add your name if need be. We often get asked whether or not tours have resumed with guest relations, and unfortunately, guest relations cast members have acknowledged that they would be training right now if that were the case for holiday tours. It sounds like tours will not be resuming until at least next year.
Happy hearts materialize and begin to vocalize. Ripping ghosts come out to socialize. Now don't close your eyes and don't try to hide, for a silly spook may sit by your side, shrouded in a daft disguise. They pretend to terrorize. Ripping ghosts come out to socialize.
The Dapper Dans of Disneyland out doing what they do best on Main Street, USA. Hey, let's talk crowds for a minute. Yes, things have become increasingly busy day by day, week by week since September. Not the crowds we saw during summer that were substantially absent from the theme park experience. It was kind of like a dream, but now we are routinely seeing wait time surging into the 50 plus, 60 plus, 70 plus minute mark, and without Fast Pass, that can be a very damning experience, especially if you're running around with a family of 4 and trying to make the most of your trip. Be advised that until the Genie Plus service is introduced at Disneyland, which they still don't have a date as to when that will be rolled out, it looks like capacity has been increased, and you will continue to experience these sorts of issues on weekdays and on weekends. Magic Key holders need to be advised, too, that even though they can't book half of the reservations they'd like to book, the parks are still bursting at the seams, and the Magic Key Lounge at Starcade here, well, it goes away as a limited time offering on October the 30th. We shuffle over to New Orleans Square, where the Royal Street Veranda has reopened officially. Finally, after weeks of watching this location since the walls came down, the windows are back open, the register is clicking once again, and mobile order is available for your gumbo, as well as your bread bowls and your clam chowder. Which is good news because the other location that was dedicated to bread bowls and clam chowder, the Harbor Galley, which is under refurbishment now through November the 19th. So if you need your bread bowl fix, head on over to the Royal Street Veranda. And connected to the Harbor Galley is the new Pelican's Landing area. This is the 2-tiered seating section that they are building right now. Lots of groundwork still being done for the sake of rising this location up. Can't wait to see what it looks like when it is all said and done. And alongside that, the sailing ship Columbia remains in its dry dock, getting work done with a to-be-determined return date. The old Le Baton Rouge shop in New Orleans Square has been made over to reflect that of Princess and the Frog colors. We believe it is Princess and the Frog related, whatever is coming here, but Disney remains mum on the issue, and drapes continue to be drawn in this section of the park. Over in Toontown now, some new developments to be seen, as various wall panels have now been updated to reflect a bit more punny and fun atmosphere for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway construction. It's so funny, for months these walls have been up and nothing has been here, and suddenly they put up these gags and these photos to make it a little bit more interesting. It's nice to see that improvement. And even with all of the gags and funny photo ops, there is certainly progress going on just behind the construction walls as we wait for more to come at Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And over in Adventureland, I asked a couple of weeks ago, what do you think needs to happen when it comes to these spaces that have recently been vacated that used to house the machines for FastPass? Well, many of you said it should become stroller parking, and it looks like in Adventureland, right alongside the Jungle Cruise, that's exactly what's going on. And to the right of Indiana Jones Adventure, Tarzan's Treehouse remains under wraps, still going through its refurbishment now through October the 28th. In Frontierland, speaking of refurbishments, Big Thunder Mountain remains under the knife. all the way up until November the 4th. We move outside of Disneyland Park main entrance at this point to show you that Disneyland's Kennel Club, yes, the location where you can essentially drop off your pet to be babysat at Disneyland, is still closed at this time. We did have a request about whether or not it was open. It is not, and the return date for the Kennel Club remains TBD at this time. We move across the Esplanade and into Disney California Adventure now, where something very exciting has returned, and that is live shows in the form of Disney Junior Dance Party. This is something we've been keeping our eye on, especially since we noticed that the Oogie Boogie Bash Halloween Party, the separate ticketed event, had a version of this show playing during the event, and now 6 times a day, Disney Junior Dance Party is back for you and your preschoolers. We move into Avengers Campus now, where the Falcon was surveying the land, making sure everybody was safe. One thing we wanted to point out was just across from the Pim Test Kitchen and Pim Test Lab Bar was an area that used to house all kinds of high-top tables. Well, they've been cleared out at this point. No real reason as to why, but it's certainly given a lot more room for heroes and villains alike to make their way through the land. Hey, Loki. And speaking of Pim Test Kitchen, this location has been the hottest restaurant to try and get into since it opened earlier this year. Mobile orders had to be made hours in advance just to get something from the restaurant. Now, not so much. About 30 minutes out, and you can get what you'd like on most days. And over at Web Slingers, the SpiderMan attraction within the land, Disney has finally acknowledged what we told you was coming, and that is no longer having to abide by a virtual queue later in the evenings as the day wears on and demand becomes far less. In fact, dropping a virtual queue on some days and going straight to a standby line as the night wears on and crowds thin out. No news as to how this is going to be affected when the Genie Plus service launches into effect, whenever that date gets announced. We head out to Pixar Pier now, and the Paradise Bay has been completely drained as serious work gets underway on the intricacies of the World of Color Nighttime Spectacular. White tents have gone up so that each piece can be worked on. You see just how intricate and major this overhaul needs to be in order to take care of World of Color and bring it back. Even the light towers at the back of Paradise Bay have been completely removed and dismantled, no doubt to be rebuilt and brought back. And one thing that we mentioned to you last week was just how unsightly so many of the pipes and the things that usually are covered up by water happen to be out in the daytime sun. Well, they covered them up, and now it's not nearly as unsightly, I suppose. However, as the Incredicoaster comes into this area multiple times an hour, they do have to look over and see the black tarps. But don't worry, there to distract them over to the Pixar Pier side of things is Mr. Incredible and Frozen. Back in Paradise Gardens, time is running out to experience Plaza de la Familia, a celebration of Coco and Dia de los Muertos. Back here, a lot of activities are going on, from your live entertainment experiences to all of the free activities that tie into the everlasting bond of family and Dia de los Muertos, the holiday. In addition to that, the great food that has taken over Paradise Garden Grill. You don't want to miss it, and like I said, you have until November 2nd to check it out. Something we're getting asked about a lot more recently is whether or not there are any sort of vaccine mandates or vaccine checks in order to enter a place like the Disneyland Resort, especially as LA County has moved forward with implementing a vaccine mandate for places like Universal Studios Hollywood and Magic Mountain. At this time, because Disneyland Resort resides in Orange County, the county has not moved forward with any sort of mandates like that, and the Disneyland Resort is not performing a check or requiring vaccination. And if you're looking for a sweet way to celebrate the Halloween season, head on over to Schmoozies in Hollywoodland at California Adventure and order yourself up a mint chocolate cookie shake. I did, and for $8.49, this Minnie Mouse inspired dessert is oh so delicious going down, but at the same time, it'll make your friends truly jealous on Instagram. All right, my friends, that about does it for us. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel with the notification bell turned on so you don't miss a thing. And if we've earned it, hit that thumbs up button. And now, you're up to date. For the Kingdom Report, I'm Wade Heath. We'll see you next time for another Disneyland Drop-In.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.